The Mandalorian Season 2 has finally had its season finale, and I've got some thoughts, so I'm going to review the entire season. Going into this season, I absolutely loved the first season of The Mandalorian. As you can tell, Star Wars, I live and breathe it. It is my favorite fandom out of anything out there. Star Wars is always my number one. It's definitely got its flaws, for sure, but when Star Wars is great, it is fucking fantastic. And the first season of the show was honestly one of the biggest surprises that this franchise has ever thrown at the fans. What a simple, amazing story about a lone bounty hunter just trying to protect a child. That's so simple. We haven't gotten stories that simple in Star Wars for years, probably even decades. Season 1 did such a great job of setting up characters and, making these great little mini arcs over the course of 8 episodes. You really got to feel for most of the characters in that show by the time the season ended. And so going into Season 2 with another very simple premise, that of trying to get the child to a Jedi, I had no idea what to expect. Episode 1, titled Chapter 9, The Marshal, was the very first one that Jon Favreau ever directed, and this was an amazing episode. In this episode, we have Din teaming up with Cobb Vanth, the marshal of this small town on Tatooine, as they tried to defend it from a crate dragon with the help of some Tusken Raiders. Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant, has Boba Fett's armor on him, and Din Djarin does not want that in the hands of a non-Mandalorian, so they agree that in exchange for killing the crate dragon, he would give him the armor. Great setup. Probably my favorite part of the episode is when the aspect ratio changed from wide to full, and you could definitely see the big grand scope of that whole entire sequence being shot in IMAX. They clearly put a shit ton of money into that crate dragon because it looks freaking awesome. It looks like straight out of Game of Thrones. And it was overall just a very fun, good time. And then at the very end, when Din and Cobb Vanth say goodbye to each other and we see our hero ride off into the sunset, we get the first moment in this season where I truly lost my shit. That being the reveal that Boba Fett is still alive, played by Tamara Morrison. I absolutely lost my shit when I saw that. Chapter 10, titled The Passenger, is probably the most episodic-driven episode of this season. It basically just focuses on Mando playing taxi, trying to get this frog lady to another planet so that her eggs can survive, and they get stuck on this ice planet trying to survive from these freaking horrifying spiders. This is probably the one that people have been saying this is the worst of the season. Probably, but it's still a great episode. It also gave us that moment when Baby Yoda starts eating the eggs of Frog Lady, so he's eating sentient life forms. That is super morbid, and I love it. It reminded me of Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi, just eating those sentient little creatures. Pretty fucked up. Not really funny, but it was pretty entertaining. Bryce Dallas Howard did Chapter 11, The Heiress, and this is the one where we see Mando get to the planet he was trying to get Frog Lady to, and she, of course, gives him information to find more Mandalorians, thus helping out him on his quest. And they end up on a fishing ship, and Baby Yoda almost dies, and Din almost dies trying to save him, and then we get the second moment that I absolutely lost my shit in this season, that being the reveal of Bo-Katan fucking Kryze being played in live action by Katie Sackhoff. Holy crap, I felt so validated as a fan when that happened.
I also noticed while editing that I forgot to mention that we also get the reveal as to why Mando never takes off his helmet and all the other Mandalorians do is because he was raised in a cult. Makes perfect sense.
And the rest of the episode plays out as a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Basically, Mando has to go and help Bo-Katan take over a Star Cruiser from the Empire to help Bo-Katan on her quest of retaking Mandalore. And in exchange, she's going to give him information of where Jedi are. So, yeah, basically, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And yeah, overall, solid episode. Not as important to the overall story as I would have thought it was initially, but it was still an amazing time. basically getting from point A to point B. Chapter 12, The Siege, is another side quest episode. This one's directed by Carl Weathers. And the best thing I liked about this episode was the chase sequence at the very end. It made me really want to see Carl Weathers direct an action movie. I absolutely love him as an actor, of course, as Apollo Creed and as Dylan in Predator. And holy crap, please give him an action movie. I want to see him do more with that. We also got a lot of fan theory speculation with this episode about like these deformed things in these vials. What do they mean? What does the child play into that overall narrative? And as well as the ominous robot, dark-looking things that Moff Gideon has on his ship, which we would come to later know as Dark Troopers. But after that side quest is done, we move on to Chapter 13, The Jedi, directed and written by Dave Filoni. This episode was a masterpiece, in my opinion. This is how you do a backdoor pilot 100%. Here, we get to see Ahsoka fucking Tano in live action form, played by Rosario Dawson. Perfect casting. And we basically get to see her team up with Mando to retake a village that has been ruled by a warlord. Din wants Ahsoka to train Grogu, which we now know is the name of the child, but she is reluctant to do so because she knows the full extent of what the dark side can do to an individual, which we did see in Star Wars Rebels. Side note, the moment when she finds out Darth Vader is Anakin in that show is my favorite moment in all of Star Wars. But once they start to reclaim this village, it is all the best things I ever wanted in live-action Ahsoka. We get to see her kicking so much ass. You get to see Ahsoka fighting this warlord who is wielding a Beskar spear, and she's holding her dual white lightsabers. And then you get to see Din facing off with Michael Biehn, who I wish was around for a little bit longer than how long he was here for. She also name drops Thrawn when she defeats the warlord, which I kind of hope Thrawn doesn't show up in this show. I hope Thrawn is like the main antagonist of the Ahsoka spin-off series. And when all is said and done, she tells Mando to go and put Grogu on this stone at a Jedi temple on some faraway planet, so then maybe a different Jedi might come and save him and go and train him. That's the end of that backdoor pilot. Best backdoor pilot I think I've ever seen in a TV show. Chapter 14, The Tragedy, was done by Robert Rodriguez, and this is my favorite episode of the entire season. Maybe the entire show. Yes, the entire show. Best episode in the entire show. When Din puts Grogu on the stone, he goes into a trance, and he starts doing this crazy Force Skype call with whoever the hell is listening. And meanwhile, both Boba Fett and the Empire show up. Boba Fett wants his armor back. Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec Shand, is also serving a life debt to Boba Fett, having Boba Fett rescued her from what happened to her in the previous season. Din makes a deal with Boba Fett to give him back his armor for the safety and protection of the child, and in doing so, we get to see Boba Fett absolutely beat the fuck out of the Empire. We finally get to see Boba Fett be Boba Fett for once. I was so validated as a fan. And in my mind now, at this point, Tamira Morrison is Boba Fett. Okay? I think I prefer the special edition of Empire 100% over the theatrical cut now, because now Tamira Morrison feels synonymous with the character. But alas, even though we get to see Boba Fett kicking ass, the Empire still lays waste and completely destroys the Razor Crest. And then the Dark Troopers come down and steal Grogu right as he comes out of the Force trance. So our main hero, Din Djarin, has basically lost everything at this point, except for the Beskar spear that Ahsoka gave to him. And it turns out Boba Fett is a pretty good guy, because he offers his services as well as Fennec Shand's to Din Djarin to go and help rescue Grogu. It had me so freaking pumped. Rick Famuyiwa returns to the director's chair for Chapter 15, The Believer, and in this episode we see Bill Burr's character return. He was a former Imperial, and so Din needs him to go and get the location of Moff Gideon. Bill Burr brings so much emotional weight to the character of Mayfeld. It probably is the most sympathy we've ever seen for somebody of the Imperials. In all of Star Wars, maybe. Probably even more than Finn. So we have conversations between him and Mando about Mando's code and not being able to take off his helmet and everything. And then we also have the amazing conversation with Mando, Mayfeld, and one of Mayfeld's former superiors later in the episode. You have this diehard Imperial person who thinks people are expendable, and then you have the person who was supposed to be expendable right there, having a clash of ideals right in front of you. And then you also have Mando sitting there without his helmet, because he has to have his face scanned to get the data. It's just nail-biting suspense right there. And when Mayfeld finally shoots him, and then starts shooting everybody else, it was such an awesome tension cutter. And once they're all out of there and they've escaped, Mando finally lets Mayfeld go, and they pretend that he died in that incident. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what happens with Mayfeld. I hope he's a recurring character in the rest of the series. And then we get to the finale, The Rescue, Chapter 16, where we have Mando's entire crew going to rescue Grogu from Moff Gideon. You've got Din Djarin, you've got Boba Fett, you've got Fennec Shand, Cara Dune, Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan's second in command, what's her name? Koska Reeves, that's her name. See, I'm still learning shit. I'm still learning shit from Star Wars. They basically take over the cloning engineer's ship. They have Boba Fett shooting at them to disguise the fact that it's them. They board Moff Gideon's light cruiser and go their separate ways. Everybody but Mando is heading to the deck to go and take Moff Gideon and claim the Darksaber. Bo-Katan wants that to rule Mandalore, while Din goes to get Grogu by himself. Din runs into a bunch of Dark Troopers, gets his ass kicked by one, but barely manages to kill it while locking the other ones away and then pushing them out the air duct. The others get to the deck and find out that Moff Gideon isn't there. Din finds him in the same cell as Grogu, holding him hostage. Moff Gideon lures him in, tells him he can just take Grogu if he vows never to deal with him ever again. And when Din's going to pick him up, that's when he strikes with the Darksaber, and then we have Din versus Moff Gideon, which is actually a pretty awesome fight. I was not expecting Moff Gideon to be so skilled in lightsaber combat. But Din manages to disarm him, and when he returns to the deck with the Darksaber and Grogu in hand, everybody is absolutely shocked. And that's when Moff Gideon reveals that you can only truly wield the Darksaber if you win it in combat, which kind of conflicts with some things in Rebels, because Bo-Katan basically got it from Sabine when she just gave it to her. Sabine also just got it by stealing it from Maul. So I can't wait to see how they figure out this plot hole. And the Dark Troopers start boarding the light cruiser again. This time there's a shit ton of them, and they're all going to die if nothing amazing happens. And sure enough, something amazing does happen. We get a lone X-Wing coming in, and sure enough, it's a Jedi, and I was like, holy shit, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? And it turns out, it's Luke Skywalker. And we get to see Luke absolutely destroy these Dark Troopers. It reminded me a lot of the hallway sequence in Rogue One. It's also really cool that Disney is finally giving us the opportunity to see these awesome original trilogy characters finally kick ass. We had Vader kicking ass in Rogue One, we have Boba Fett kicking ass earlier in the season, and now we have Luke finally kicking ass. So cool. But then when Luke kills them all and he gets to the deck, he takes off his hood and he looks awful. I would have much preferred they cast Sebastian Stan. I mean, Mark Hamill has given him his approval to play the character. Come on. What are you waiting for, Disney? This looks awful. And with that, Grogu is handed over to the care of Luke, but not before him and Din share a nice touching moment where Din finally takes off his helmet to reveal his face to Grogu, and I wanted to cry. I basically did cry. Oh man, that was probably my favorite moment of the entire series thus far, was seeing that touching interaction between those two. And then we see Grogu and Luke leave off to go and do Jedi training while the rest of our heroes are there on the ship. And that's the end. But there's also a post-credit scene. We see Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. Boba kills a very overweight Bib Fortuna and claims the throne to the Hutt crime cartel. And then we get the reveal that the Book of Boba Fett will be coming next December. And that's it. I do have some mixed feelings about this ending. If the sequel trilogy had not happened, and we didn't get to see what eventually happened to Luke's Jedi Academy, I would be much more happy with this ending, I feel. But knowing the fact that if Grogu stays with Luke, he's either going to end up burnt to a crisp or he'll be a Knight of Ren, that's very discomforting to me. And also, I don't want to see Luke anymore in this series. I want to see it maybe like pop up a few times, but I do not want to see Uncanny Valley, terrible, creepy looking face Luke anymore. I want this to be Din Djarin's show. I love him as a character, and I love the relationship between him and Grogu. That is the heart and soul of this show, and that should not be changed. And that being said, I hope the Book of Boba Fett is its own series, and not what they're going to call Season 3 of The Mandalorian. But overall, yes, I absolutely loved this show. I am still 100% on board with Season 3, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. I think this show is in excellent hands, and I'm also looking forward to all the other great Star Wars stuff that they've announced. And with that being said, I'm going to give The Mandalorian Season 2 an A. You know, actually, depending on how the later seasons go, that grade could change. Honestly, this is a very, very pivotal season right now. This finale was very pivotal on how the overall series will be affected, I think. And I can't wait to see what happens, and I have faith that it's going to be worth it. But anyways, you guys, what did you think of The Mandalorian Season 2? Are you excited for Season 3? Because I'm pretty sure everybody should be. How did you feel about the ending? Was it polarizing to you, or did you absolutely love it? And, yeah, stay tuned for more reviews coming soon. And, yeah. Be sure to like and sub and do all that stupid stuff. Share. Do it all. You guys have a nice one.